everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today I have the opportunity to continue my series on the wonderful, amazing men of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Today I have with me a gentleman by the name of Quinton Leath, and in a minute we will hear more about his chapter, fraternity life. But first and foremost, as I always do, sir, I take a quick moment to pause, say thank you to you for making time for me today. Time is a gift. Once we give it, we cannot get it back. So I truly appreciate you making time in your day to sit down and chat with me. And with that, sir, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
So as I mentioned, you are a man of Kappa, a Kappa man.
Yes,
which chapter are you currently with?
So currently I'm with the Fort Lee Alumni chapter here in the Richmond, Southern Richmond area. And I was a 2000 spring initiate of the Theta Phi chapter, and that's Troy State University. So I've been in the frat for 23 years. Pretty much my entire adult life. Since I was about 20, 21, I've been a Kappa man. So it's been very rewarding in a lot of different ways. I grew up in Kappa, you know what I mean? So in the words of Coach Prime, I'm not new to this, I'm true to this.
I'm true to this. I ain't mad at you. Well, first let me ask, because I did peep before I was getting ready for today's show. I was looking at your chapter, Fort Lee, and I see it is situated or is around a military base, and I see that a lot of the members, if not all, are military men.
Correct.
And growing up, I'm a military brat. My father was in the service, so one of the things that I remember is bouncing around a lot as his tour of duty. So I was thinking, when I saw that, being a military chapter, does that present any challenges or make your chapter a little bit unique?
It does. So I've been a part of two, and so first of all, let me start off by saying these views are my views alone. I'm not speaking on behalf of International Headquarters Kappa Alpha Psi whatsoever. So these are my views alone. So I've been a part of two military, primarily military chapters, right?
Okay.
So it was the formerly Fort Bragg, but Fort Bragg, Fayetteville, Fort Bragg Air Force Base Alumni chapter, and this chapter, which is the Fort Lee Alumni chapter. So a long time ago, for example, at Fort Bragg, the formerly Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty, someone had, when they chartered that alumni chapter, they had the foresight of encompassing both the military and the civilian area, right? Because each alumni chapter is named for the city in which it resides. So you won't have what we like to call in air quote a split chapter, where you have a civilian chapter in such close proximity of the in air quotes military chapter. It kind of splits the membership, you know what I mean? So here in this area, we have within a, let's say, 25-mile radius is Fort Lee, Petersburg Alumni Chapter, and Richmond Alumni Chapter. So Richmond Alumni Chapter is really not in any competition for brothers, because it's in its own, it's so far away geographically that, they're pulling from the greater Richmond area. But, when it comes to Fort Lee and Petersburg, we are definitely vying for the same potential members, same potential initiates. And it doesn't cause a problem per se. It's just, we like to say, competition, it's helpful too, to have a competitive chapter that is right next door with you. So there's nothing that helps fuel, ingenuity like competition. But then, when it comes to really, there's power in numbers too. So being able to pool those resources in a more efficient manner would probably benefit both chapters, rather than, necessarily going it, alone, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Understood. And so, because military men are moving about, transitioning a lot, does that, I'm thinking officers are elected for a short period of time. So Okay.
Yeah, it has its own set of challenges. As far as the biggest challenge when it comes time to do initiation, right? Because because you get so many transit brothers, and I'm not talking about necessarily brothers that have PCS to the area and they're going to be here for 2-3 years and then they move on. That's a different equation than you have a very, very qualified aspirant, but they might be here for 6-7 months, right? But so do you initiate them? You know what I mean? And most of us, inclined to say no.
Gotcha.
Because you initiate this young man into the frat, but you don't get the benefit of his labor and his talents.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so and I frown upon it a bit, because the optics of it could be it's just a money grab. This chapter is initiating people just to initiate them, and that's not the case. What it is that from my experience, pledging a fraternity, man, you have a small window a lot of times, especially in undergrad, especially if you want to be an undergrad brother, you have a small window to make that happen, and anything can derail it. You know what I'm saying? And even if that's because the essence of this fraternity is centered around the undergraduate brothers. This fraternity was founded for undergrads, you know what I mean? And it has morphed into an organization that provides a lifelong reach back opportunities, throughout the rest of your life, unlike, some of your non-BGLOs, it's normally just a college thing they did. And once they finish, like, oh, I was a Sigma Chi when I was in college. But that's not the language we use. We say I am a Kappa, because it's a lifelong commitment. So that just presents a challenge, when you're looking at how you're going to initiate brothers. And make no mistake about it, it's also, it's a grand chapter, they are dependent on us initiating brothers. It's a stream of income. You know what I mean? It's most definitely a stream of income, so, it's, so it not so much not so much for maybe the local chapters, but definitely at the grand chapter, it's definitely been like during COVID when nobody was initiating any brothers or sisters. It was, like, we almost, I feel like the frat probably need to get a PPP loan.
I know, right? We got to come up with some creative stuff here.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, think about it, all the conclaves and the boulets and whatnot that were canceled. We were supposed to go to Phoenix in 2021. And I mean, they held on to the absolute last minute before they canceled it. But I mean, it is, the economic impact that we have in the rest of, the rest of Divine now, when we come into town and we spending money, like, they were upset. You know what I'm saying? But what can you do? There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, you Kappas have some challenges now with your conclave, because you guys are supposed to be going to Florida, and there's some.
Well, so the clave is still going. It's still going on. It's not canceled. The consensus, I was, as an individual person, as a man, I don't have a dollar to spend in the state of Florida.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But again, we plan these conclaves so far out in advance. You know what I mean? It'd be foolhardy to I mean, the risk, the financial risk that the fraternity has to take in order to counsel.
That's true.
The benefit doesn't outweigh the impact. You know what I mean? Like the only people that hurts, it hurts the frat because we spent all the money. It hurts all the local businesses that is dependent on us to come and bring brothers down to spend money. You know what I mean? It only impacts the small businesses.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? It only impacts the alumni chapter, the host chapter, who spent all of their, a lot of their budget, and, you know what I mean, to put on a show for us. You know what I mean? And the hospitality. So, and then and lastly, who they Ron DeSantis care that the Kappas didn't. What we actually done was giving that man what he wanted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I felt like the correct pivot would have been to figure out a way to spend the day in Tallahassee and protest at the at their state capitol. I think a few thousand Black men in those red blazers. You know what I mean? Standing in solidarity. And I think the Qs, their conclave is the same year too. We all kind of follow each other. So I think the Qs is like the month before. And if I had my way as the Grand Pole Mark, I would have seen if there was a way I could have reached out to the Grand Basilisk of Omega Psi Phi and figure out how we can go down and protest. I think we don't use our numbers,
collective power,
and our collective power as the divine nine.
Yeah.
I don't think we're using it. You know what I mean? We use it from time to time. When Kamala Harris got elected.
Oh yeah.
You bet. I mean, you best believe Uncle Joe got Kamala Harris and the rest of those, and the Deltas and the AKAs and the Semigamma Rho's and the Zetas. They got them to thank for that. Because those women got out there in full force to support.
They did their thing.
Just on the strength that Kamala Harris is not an alumni member. She is an Alpha chapter, AKA from Howard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So her going to DC, she was going home.
Yeah.
She wasn't new. She wasn't new to DC. You know what I'm saying? That was
Y'all better come out. Y'all are obligated to come out for that one.
Well, you feel me? So we see what happens when we say there's something like, hey, yes, we're supporting that. Yeah. Stacey Adams, you know what I mean? Those women got together and they got they got Papa Joe elected. That was all Black women, 100%.
That was. And I also saw a collective effort after George Floyd, like every city I saw when it came to all the protests and marches, I saw a lot of collective effort with that as well. Yeah. So there are some times, but it would be nice to see some more. That's the reason why a lot of the Divine Nine was started was social causes. So right. Well,
it's not just. So Kappa, in its infancy, when it was still Kappa Alpha Nu, they're founded on Indiana University. You know what I'm saying? So it was, we have 10 founders. It was probably about 10 people, 10 Black people in that entire.
They were the only people.
You know what I mean? So originally, it wasn't about a social cause. It was these were young men who needed each other to get through college life. Brother Diggs and Brother Armstrong originally were at Howard University.
Okay.
Right. So if you look at you dig a little deeper, one of his cousins, I'm talking about Brother Diggs, one of his cousins is a founder. Think of one of the original AKA's founders of AKA.
Okay.
One of his cousins. Okay. So so there was a time, and then also like when you look at, like, for example, Deltas and Omegas, you know, there were, you know, a married couple within that, you know what I mean? So, right. So there was a, you know, Greek life is a tight-knit community, you know what I mean, on these campuses, especially your HBCUs, where you have the absolute cream of the crop. You know, you have the pick of the litter of who you want to let into the chapter or not. I went to a PWI, and we, even though we have a large Black base, you know, if you have Black Greeks, again, we're all vying for the same top-notch students, right? But your pool is smaller.
Gotcha.
Well, yeah, the HBCUs, you know, everybody there's Black. You know what I mean? And so when you start talking about Indiana University, when you start looking at the first 10 chapters, they're all, you know, Midwest chapters. Because it was founded in the Midwest.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So their growth was a different path than, say, you know, the several chapters that were founded on Howard. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Alpha's was founded on Cornell. So they have a similar pathway too.
Okay. So let me ask one more thing. I want to ask about the military thing, and then we'll move on. Because I noticed that at this time in 2023, Kappas are everywhere. Like, I think I saw you guys in Dubai and Japan. Is that because of you military brothers, or did that happen some other kind of way? Are you guys out there planting seeds all around the world?
So yes and no. So the majority of, so we start talking about international chapters, right? So your Bermuda alumni chapter, they just did the Dominican Republic. Yeah, that's bananas. That's gonna be bananas. Who else? Anyway, all the international chapters are comprised of mostly, you know, civilians and military. But you do have some international chapters that's primarily military, for the most part. So like your Germany alumni.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like most of the people, Americans that's in Germany, that's educated. Because they in the army.
Put the puzzle together. Put the puzzle pieces together.
Right. You see what I'm saying? And so again, you know, so it's not the German alumni chapter is not a military chapter, but you got a whole bunch of military members in it. I was a part of Korea alumni chapter. Yes, back in 2002 to 2003, when I did my tour over there. Again, you do have some civilians that's in the chapter, but it's primarily military members making because those are only people that's going to Korea.
Makes sense.
We chartered the Kuwait alumni chapter. There's an alumni chapter in Kuwait at the height of the war. It was very, very popular, you know what I mean? Again, but I think now that the war has tapered off and you don't have as many Americans going over there, that chapter might be dormant right now, maybe. I'm not quite sure. Same thing with Saudi Arabia, same thing with some of these alumni chapters their growth potential is not exactly there to grow. You know what I mean? Because you just don't have a lot of Black Americans that's
committed to the
that lives over there. You know what I mean? And then it comes to the entire country. So if you don't have a place that you're meeting, that's, you know, if the country is huge, you might not be coming to any chapter meetings anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So like, you know, Germany, you know, I'm not sure how they did in Germany, but if you lived in, you know, if you was a brother that lived in, you know, Mannheim, but the chapter meetings were all the way in Heidelberg somewhere, you still wouldn't go. You know what I mean? So it's still the dynamics of it is still difficult. You know, when we start talking about international chapters, they're primarily used more like as a social, like really social, really just a gathering place. They do have some of your initiatives like Guy Wright and Kappa League and some of those other things.
Okay.
But again, there will be, it's kind of hard to pull that for an entire country. So they'll normally focus it on a particular area, maybe that our brother lives in, and allow that brother to head it out.
Okay.
So that's really the benefit of these, of our military chapters. One of the great benefits of a military chapter is that it can be a good thing or a bad thing, but it allows an ascension to offices that would take expeditionally longer in a civilian chapter.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Understood.
So your ability to work your way from a committee member to a committee chair, from a committee chair to a assistant, from an assistant to a primary, from a primary to the pole march to the president, you know what I mean? You can get there within a decade, let's say, right? Because service, a decade, right? Sometimes less, you know what I mean? Because again, when we start talking about military chapters, you're talking about people that are already proven leaders. So it's not uncommon to see a brother that's young in the fraternity ascend quickly to a primary position, just because, the learning curve has already been there.
Gotcha.
So that's a great thing versus your more well-established civilian chapters. I mean, it could take years. It could take years, because you got brother. Look, think about it, I've been in the frat 23 years, but there's been somebody in the frat for 30 years. You get what I'm saying? There's always somebody that's been in the frat longer than you, and that person's been waiting for a position or they're in line for a position. The protocol, the unwritten rules will allow that person almost the first right of refusal.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Rather than, a brother that's, just running for the sake of running. You know what I mean? So I think with the military chapters, the turnover is a lot higher. Therefore, the weight of instability is a little bit more turbulent sometimes, with the ebb and flow than a alumni chapter, but it does allow fresh ideas and fresh blood to come in and
much needed. Yeah,
correct.
That's something I didn't really think about, and I guess maybe the young ambitious brothers that are listening might need to take heed, because young folks or new people to the organization might think, I'm gonna walk right in and become pole mark, but
doesn't happen like that.
Okay.
It can. I'm not saying that never happened. I mean, I'm not saying never happened, but and there's a lot to learn too. I mean, being a pole mark of a chapter, man, is a huge responsibility, because you are the face of the fraternity now.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the face of your chapter.
Okay.
You're now a spokesperson for the frat.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like there's only a couple other people that's above you. That's the province pole mark and the grand pole mark. Like, you don't answer to nobody else but the province and the grand. There's only two people that you really answer to.
Okay.
Once you become pole mark at any level. Okay. You feel where I'm coming from? Yeah. And with that, you are the voice. You are the face of the organization. You're the CEO. You know what I mean?
That does require training. You have to be, you do have to be trained and
right.
Okay. Understood.
So there's a lot of and I think we can segue into some of these other things that later, but I think we could do a better job, just speaking for Kappa, speaking from my experience in Kappa, I think we could do a better job of doing that training, organizational leadership. We do a lot of training in how to run the chapter, but we don't, organizational leadership is tough. Putting together a vision and a vision statement.
Okay.
Most people never done that. You know what I mean? It requires training. And I think that we are leaving a lot of meat on the bone when it comes to continued education for our adults.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So we do a lot of mentorship to our undergraduate brothers. We do a lot of mentorship to our high school and middle school brothers. But you're only an undergrad for 4 years.
Life
Most
goes
people's
on.
only right. I was only in the undergrad chapter for 2 years. Think about that, right? I've been a Kappa man for 23. So 21 of my years has all been grad chapter stuff.
Mm.
But yet there are 0 programs that I know of that the focus is continuing education for our members post undergrad.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? So we have the Kappa League. That's high school.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
But there's like some chapters do like scholarships and some other things, right? But there is nothing that I know of that where we are taking the lead in the education, the continuing adult education of our members.
Okay, good point. And I
You
don't
know,
think that and I might be ignorant in this, but I don't think any of the Divine Nine.
I don't think so. I don't think so. If they do, it's news to me. I don't want to speak. I'm only speaking about my experience with Kappa. I don't know what the other organizations do. And I feel like Kappa, we have. Look, I should be spending my money with Kappa first. If I needed a home, I should have a repository of brothers that are mortgage lenders, I should have a repository of brothers that are real estate agents.
Mm-hmm.
Kappa should be helping me promote my business, growing my business.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We don't do any of that. You get where I'm coming from? Okay. And so it begs the question sometimes. Then why am I an active member when the fraternity is not investing in me as an individual? Okay. You get where I'm coming from? Okay. Because all of our investments, when we start talking about investing into our future, we do a great job. And we got Kappa Camp, we got Tiny Woods, we have the Kappa League. We do a lot of things for our youth. We do some things for the undergrad, right? But then it's like, once they leave school, you expect these young brothers to join the alumni chapter, right? But these guys are entry level into their career field. And so we lose a lot of brothers between that transition between undergrad and the grad chapter. You probably lose 60%, 70%. I'm willing to bet. Wow. Because think about it, if I was broke in college, I'm gonna be broke as an adult.
Now I'm starting a family, I'm trying to position all of this stuff. Okay.
Right. So what are we doing at the graduate level, as part of our international headquarters? How are we reinvesting into our brothers? Okay. And that would be one of the things that I would like if I was a pole mark for the day. That would be one of my initiatives.
Well, let me ask you this, because I know that all of the Divine Nine is heavy on scholarships, putting money back in, but a lot of the alumni brothers and sisters go back to grad school or get another degree. Are there scholarships available for?
No. Maybe at the low. We did this year for the first time. We reached out to brothers. We reached out to past scholarship recipients, and they could reapply for a scholarship if we have money left over. Being that our chapter is not tied to another undergraduate chapter, so we don't have a partnership right now with the undergraduate chapter.
You're not big brothers for an undergraduate chapter.
Correct, right? So, like for example, Richmond alumni, their undergraduate chapter that they oversee is Virginia Commonwealth.
Okay.
Petersburg alumni, their undergraduate chapter they oversee is is Virginia State. You get where I'm coming from?
Oh.
So they probably are doing things as grassroots because this is, my school, and a lot of those guys that graduate from that school that stay in the area filters into the alumni chapter.
Gotcha.
But as a policy with Grand Chapter, you don't see disbursements of, okay, we're going to invest X amount of dollars, and then every brother that's in the undergraduate chapter that got at least a 2.5 would get a $150 check.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
You get where I'm coming from?
Gotcha.
Which when I was an undergrad, shoot, hey, as broke as I was, with inflation, I don't know how much $150 will buy you.
That's
but I'm
right.
sure
That's some food, that's some
food or
gas. Yes,
right.
that's indeed.
So those will be kind of the things that if I was Grand Pool Mark for a day, be some of the things that I would try to introduce.
Figure out how to make it a benefit. I mean, because, I think the only thing that is available for the older members is when you're older, right? There's a lot of, checking.
Yeah. Once you become a senior Kappa,
there's that. Okay, but nothing in between there.
There are some things, like I said, grassroots level, there's a lot of social things, kicking in and having a good time. And there's a lot of one-on-one, like, it's not like there is nothing that's codifying it all together. You know what I mean? And at one point in time, we had, for example, we had what was called we had a credit union. Sorry. Yeah, so we had a credit union with the Grand Chapter. And it was kind of hard getting that together. So that idea came probably 10 years too early because online banking wasn't really a thing yet. Your big boys did online banking, but most of your credit, it wasn't, it's not as simple. It wasn't as simple as it is. It's simpler now to do it, right? So you can probably, I think if they were to do a beta test and retry it, I think they'd have a lot more success of brothers, signing up for it, right? But, but again, but that's the types of things I'm talking about, in other communities, hey, if you need a business loan, you ain't got to go to the bank. You go see John. He's
see my brother. I should be able to go see my brother.
Right. You get what I'm saying? And so, and that's what I would like to see more of, a concerted effort to create a network that will allow us, again, to really, spend that money, spend our dollar within our collective community more. And I'm not just talking about with Kappas, I'm talking about Black businesses, I'm talking about individuals, other organizations, what I mean? That, it's competition when we got our jackets on, but it's all love when we out here because, we got to support each other on these things, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would love to see look, we partner with St. Jude's Research Hospital, and we have donated millions. Great cause. You know what I'm saying? When I was on active duty, one of my warrant officers that worked for me, his name is CW5 Hall. He has a special needs son. Okay. Yeah, is it Trevor? Tyler is the little boy name. I don't know what his special needs is, but I met the kid a few times. He's wheelchair bound. Since I've known him for 2 years, that kid been in and out of the hospital like, half a dozen times, easy, for extended stays. Okay. But he always, when we have our chapter meeting in the old building that I worked in, and Chief Hall will always come and say, man, I love the Kappas. Now, Chief Hall he's from Pennsylvania. He's a Caucasian. He's white as they jump, right? But he always, he would always tell me and another good brother's name, CW5, retired Frazier. He said, I love the Kappas. I love the Kappas. He said, y'all brothers, y'all donate to St. Jude's. I see what y'all do with St. Jude's all the time. Because his son was in St. Jude's. They thought they was going to lose him. Yeah, so when you hear stories like that, you know that there's impact being made, right? And what I like to see now, a more concerted effort to, it'll be great, for example, that every brother that's in medical school get a $500 grant from the grad chapter.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not all the money in the world,
but it's something.
But it's something. You know what I'm saying? It'll be great if we had a program where,
here's a down payment on your home. We're gonna help you with your down payment on your home.
Something. Anything. You know what I'm saying? Hey, even if it's not down payment, hey, we have 25 slots for FHA loans that we're going to help you get into.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Gotcha. To me, those are things that count. Gotcha. And those are things that, hey, if I'm an active brother, fully financial brother, I can take advantage of that. Yeah. And it gives me a reason to stay active. Mm-hmm. I think right now there is not a whole lot of reason to stay active after undergrad. Yeah. Unless, you know what I'm saying? Like it's hard. It's hard. When you start looking at the time requirement and the money requirement and things you're asked to do, and then what you receive in return, mm-hmm. your ROI on your return on investment. Sometimes, sometimes the warm and fuzzy feeling you see having somebody else succeed. I mean, that's cool. That call. You got to make that judgment. Well, let me ask you this though.
You've been a Kappa for 23 years, and because I'm just thinking about my grandmother and my great grandmother. Mm-hmm. Has it devolved or evolved where it's not so community focused, like we gonna help each other out and I'm gonna go to my brother for this or something? I mean, because
Kappa is huge now.
Yeah,
it's huge. So it used to be a time, when you pledge a fraternity and then you go somewhere else, the only person that you knew to help you was going to be a brother. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Right. And think a lot has changed. Integration has changed a lot, mm-hmm. as far as our reliance on each other.
Understood.
You understand where I'm coming from? Understood. And so I think that, again, one-on-one, there's a lot of brothers pulling each other up. A lot of brothers helping each other. Okay. You know what I mean? What I would like to see is the grad chapter say, hey, we're going to do this initiative for this. Okay. And it's for brothers only. It is for brothers only. It is for our active brothers who are fully financial in the fraternity. We are starting this pilot program. If you have, you need a business loan and you meet these criteria, we would get you a business loan. Okay. If you need a home mortgage and you meet this credit score, and if you have problems obtaining a home mortgage. Right now, home mortgages are hard to get a home mortgage right now, right? Yeah. Well, we got a program for that. We're going to help you. We're going to invest into that for you. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Now, the problem is who you're going to pay to do it, because nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do it for free. and that be the problem sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But we have money. We have money, and we have the ability to right now it's partnerships. Well, if we're partnering with St. Jude to help their initiative, though, surely Wells Fargo can partner with Kappa Alpha Psi to help brothers get their mortgages right.
Gotcha.
You get what I'm saying? Gotcha. So Right. So there are ways, you establish partnerships. There are ways to get that done.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I just think that we are Black men in general, but Black men don't get a lot of help. You know what I mean? Even within the fraternity,
True.
you know what I mean? We look at each other as, hey, you're a man, you can figure that out. You know what I mean? Women help each other a lot more.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Women talk to
Especially
each
in
other
sorority, yeah.
about more personal stuff, you know what I mean, than men do. And so I think that, us really critically looking at some of the problems that our men are going through, you know what I mean, with protecting, providing, being a pillar in their community, will allow more brothers like, yo, man, Fred is really doing some great, better things right now, man. This, because it's all grassroots. It starts with the local chapter.
So I guess what I'm hearing you say is like Kappa, is we've had these programs and we've done these programs for all these years and this is what it is. But, here's Quinton saying, well, we need to evolve, we need to grow, we need to add some new layers. Like what we did back in 1911 is not working for 2023.
No.
We need to make some adjustments.
No, there's a lot of and Grand Chapter, they do a lot, and it's a small staff of people. Let's get, so there's only a handful of brothers that are paid to do their job. It's the executive director and about 5 other brothers the deputy and about 5 other brothers that are actually being paid to do a job. And then have a couple of assistants. So everybody else are all volunteers. You get what I'm saying?
Understood.
You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that there's not brothers out there doing the Lord's work.
Mhm.
I'm saying now it's time for the fraternity to, in my opinion, to reinvest into the brothers in some way.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Some productive way that, that we can latch on to.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That look, I'm 45 years old. You know what I mean? I have kids, my kids are going to get a scholarship from the chapter when it's time to go to school.
Okay.
No doubt, right? But I just transitioned from the military.
So some transition services would be nice.
Right. You get what I'm saying? Like, it would have been cool if the fraternity had a repository of, we have all of these alumni chapters that are affiliated with military. It would have been good to have, again, SFL-TAP, that Soldier for Life Transition Assistance Program. Hey, every brother, we're partnering with Fort Liberty and the SFL-TAP. We're going to be on Zoom on this time. Good. Brothers that are retiring, log on. Good. That's just a small thing. Okay. Very, very little, don't take a lot of money. Just set it up. Okay. You get what I'm saying? But now it looks like, hey, Grand Chapter is concerned about me doing well. You know what I mean? And if I wasn't a financial brother, I would have never heard of it. So that's where to me, the reclamation and some of these other programs that we have, it will drive members. It will drive us to give reason for brothers who are not active, who have not been active in years, to find a local chapter, join that chapter, and become active again. You know what I mean?
And I'm hearing that could possibly be a concern moving forward, because we want Kappa around in 100 years and 200 years. So we have to establish a plan that's going to not only initiate members, but keep them on board for the long term.
Yeah. The reclamation is huge, man. We wouldn't need to initiate brothers nearly as much as we do if brothers stay active longer. You know what I mean? And but keep in mind though, you know, we have this thing we call it the diamond. It's God, family, school, or work, and then Kappa. So there's a whole lot of priorities that come before
Kappa.
making Kappa a priority. And we are never, you know, I had a brother, his name is Kenneth Madison, also known as Mad Dog. He refused to go by anything but Mad Dog. But I remember when I was a young lieutenant and I was having the hardest time in my first unit, and I needed, he said, Quinton, hey man, no matter where you go, Kappa's gonna be there waiting on you. If you don't ever feel the need not to step away from Kappa when you need to step away from it, you just make sure you find your way back to Kappa. You get where I'm coming from? And so there's been times, you know, in my 23 years, I haven't been a fully financial dues paying member. You know what I mean? There's been, out of 23 years, I probably was fully financial 23 to say 17 of those years. Because there's been times I've been deployed. There've been times where there was no alumni chapter. You know, there's been times I was just too busy. You know what I mean?
Money get funny sometimes. I remember my dad being in the military.
Right. So I'll be the first one to tell you, man, like, yo, I can't say I was fully financial for 23 years straight. That'd be a lie. That'd be a big lie. But I've always been affiliated with alumni chapter. You know what I'm saying? Once I got, once I had the bandwidth to do it, I did it. You know what I mean? And you'll see that, and you'll see, and this is another thing. You know, we have a lot of celebrity brothers, you know what I mean, that are members, but it's hard for them to be, fully financial because it's a lot. It could be a liability. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to see Rob Johnson, who's the former CEO of BET, the founder of BET. You don't see like a Rob Johnson. Like he'll show up for the big thing, but you're not going to see Michael Jordan necessarily at a chapter meeting on Saturday.
Can't hang out with you guys.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It doesn't work that way. You get where I'm coming from? And so it's like the bigger you are, the more of a liability being being really ingrained in the fraternity while you're in your business. I remember with General Vi, he was the former AMC 4-star general, the first non-logistician that was the AMC general. Let's get that straight. And he's a brother. He came, he hung out with the brothers. He'll come. Oh yeah. If you ask him to show up, he'll show up. But there was at arm's length that you have to keep a lot of things because, he's a somebody.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
And in the news, we like to have fun too. You know what I mean? So it's like, and again, with the social media and photos and stuff like that, the last thing you need is a liability. So, it's hard for even some of the brothers that are high profile to really be as active and ingrained into some of these things that they would like to be. You know what I mean? Just because they're busy, really busy, and again, they their appearances. I remember nephew Tommy. Did you know nephew Tommy?
Yeah.
Met nephew Tommy down in Houston. Nephew Tommy ain't down there telling jokes for free.
No, this is how I eat. This is my bread and butter. This the mortgage payment.
Tell those jokes for free. And look, let me tell you something. In 2000, I met Cedric the Entertainer. And I was in jump school at Fort Benning, Georgia. I met Cedric the Entertainer. And he did a comedy show, and then he had an appearance at this hole in the wall club or whatever. And so I go and I cripple up, you know what I mean? And I hit him with the challenge. He hit me with the password. Like, oh, and hey, look, I'm so excited. I'm squeezing on my heart. Oh, brother, okay. And I said, hey, brother, we'd love to get you down here to Troy. Hey, we want to book you for the show. How we do it? He said, hey, man, talk to my manager right there. And we could get, we'll see how we can get you squared away. man, we must have called that number 20 times. Man, we ain't get nothing but the dog answer. You ain't got no time to be wrestled no undergrads.
Yeah, I'm a Kappa butt.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
a Kappa butt.
Yeah, bro, you can't afford me, man. I mean, I wish you just said that, like, bro, y'all can't afford me.
Too
You know?
funny. That's too funny. That is classic. That is classic. But you know, I mean, it brings to mind, I think a lot of people are not aware that there are so many prominent people in Black Greek life, you know, and it seems to be when it comes to social causes, a lot of the people that step out front in leadership roles, you mentioned Kamala and everything, tend to be from fraternities or sororities. Is it something, do you feel, about Divine Nine that promotes leadership skills?
The Divine Nine, if it was, let me put it to you this way. When I was 20 years old, when I was pledging Kappa, it was the absolute hardest thing I ever done in my life, up to that point.
Wow.
You know what I mean? What I sacrificed to become a member, what I had to learn, the bonding that was required to do it. It was the absolute hardest thing all the way up until that moment in my life. And keep in mind, I was in ROTC at the time. You know what I mean? I grew up on a dirt road in Alabama. You know what I'm saying? But at that time, it was the hardest thing I ever done.
Wow.
And I carried that the rest of my life. I feel like sometimes, man, like, yo, if I could pledge Kappa, I can do this. This ain't as hard as pledging. And so you see,
20-something years ago, pledging 20-something.
But I'm gonna get to my other point. I'm gonna get to my other not so popular point here in a second.
Okay.
But it was the absolute hardest thing I ever done. And I'm not, it wasn't, it was not to prescribe the way that IHQ mandated we do things. You know what I'm saying? And we did things that were outside of that box. You know what I mean? But it was never anything that was, put my life in danger, anything like that, where I was be physically or mentally abused or anything like that.
Understood.
But it gave me the perspective of what's hard today is not going to be hard tomorrow. You know what I mean? I was not as successful in my military career that I would have liked to have been. You know what I'm saying? Still successful. But I left some meat on the bone because when you're the first to do something, you're just going to make some mistakes that, that a person that has more mentorship is just not going to make. But at no time did quitting ever cross my mind. Because as you know, sometimes, I was in Afghanistan. And so when I was in Afghanistan the second time, I was actually there with my LD. His name was Aaron. So we was both working in our 3rd Special Forces Group. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't have nobody in that whole doggone country but each other. And that's all I needed. That's all I needed was him.
Wow.
And we went to college together. We pledged together. He got blown up over there when he left. He's okay now. But there was times the only person in the world I had to turn to was him. I didn't need nobody else. So that's the power of the bond. That's when it's really, really real. And money can't buy it.
That's what it's about. That is what it's about.
Money can't buy it. And that was 2012. And he's retired now also. Like I said, we went through it over there. And he almost died over there. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm coming from? Hell, I almost died too, but not the same way. You know what I mean? But that's the power of the bond. We didn't have nobody but each other. You know what I mean? We had he had a little flask or something, and then we call it one sip Friday. He just had a corner. We just take he'll take it. We did that for probably 3 months. We call it one sip Friday. And we have our cigar. We'll both take a bump out that flask, and you know, we always talked about like, yo, we gotta get the F out of here.
Yeah, just get me out of here. Just get me out of here. Get me back home. Get me back to the mainland.
Yeah.
I got one more question for you, and then I'm gonna wrap up. But listening to you incorporate Kappa life and being a military man, reflective question: do you think, especially hearing your experience with your line brother who was there with you, do you think being a military man, having a military career, seeing the things you went through, learning the organizational chart, how things operate, how they have programs for you when you transition, do you feel that has an impact on your expectations of Kappa as an organization?
I have high expectations of Kappa because Kappa have a high expectations. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm coming from? It's a mutual agreement.
Okay.
That the mutual agreement is that I am going to be a Kappa man, and I'm going to support this fraternity for a lifetime. Okay. You know what I mean? That's my agreement to you. What I'd just like to see just in the future is just more reciprocity, and more things specifically designed for our brothers. Okay. You know what I mean? Not the stuff we're doing for Kappa League, that's great stuff. Not the stuff we're doing for St. Jude's and some of the other stuff we're doing for the March of Dimes. All that stuff is important stuff. But you also gotta pour and invest more into your brothers, because we're the one that gotta carry this water for you. You know what I'm saying?
You guys are the ones who are boots to the ground.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I'll allude to my experience as an undergraduate, and though there's been other people that had horrific experiences as undergrads, you know what I'm saying, which none of that which I condone. You know what I'm saying? I think the only thing that's really missing now is that there used to be a time when you became a Kappa man that coming of age. You know what I'm saying? It was a coming of age. It was the ritual. It really what it did as an undergraduate. It finally made me a man. You get what I'm saying? Like, yo, I am a Kappa. It's hard. It's hard to become a Kappa. It's very difficult. Even if you meet all the criteria, like I said, the timing is there too. You know what I mean? And I just think that is the last thing we're missing. I think we solidify that. We find a way to for these young brothers want to feel a part of something. They want to feel like, and it's not anything that you can buy. You can't buy it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You can't buy it. And people want to feel a part of something. You know what I mean? When you go to basic training, when you go to Ranger school, when you go to jump school, when you go to any of these, training and stuff like that, the standards are set high because the stakes are high. Stakes are high. We're talking about life and death here. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I feel the same way about Kappa. The stakes are high because, Black men, we are we are the engine that's driving these things. You know what I mean? You can't, and without our women, you know what I mean, there and providing us that emotional and spiritual support, you know what I mean, you can't be there for the kids. You get where I'm coming from? Yeah, all this whole thing is connected.
Yeah.
It's very much connected, you know what I mean? And we have got to find more ways to not only connect ourselves with each other and be a pillar for one another, you know what I'm saying? But also once you become a pillar for one another, once I can, you know, men don't hunt together, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things Black men we should be doing more together so that we can feel more connected.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I think that would help with, you know, some of the things that's happening with with suicide and with mental health and with spiritual health and with financial literacy and all those things. We're not connected strong enough, you know what I mean? And these fraternities is one of the few places where you have an opportunity to connect with one another, you know what I mean? And I think, you know, hopefully we will see more programs where it's being driven from the top down. It's being done from bottom up, for sure.
Okay.
But, you know, maybe I'd love to see more things happen from the top down that is going to help us drive change. Because, you know, I don't ever want to be in a position where, you know, Kappa's not here for whatever reason. You know what I mean? And we need the rest of the divine. We need those omegas. We need those sigmas. We need the alphas. We need each other. You know what I'm saying? We need each other so that we can fight back oppression. We need each other so we can help build our communities. Okay. We need each other so we can combat, you know, financial illiteracy. You know what I mean? We need each other so that our generation of kids are better off for having parents that were part of these organizations. You know what I mean? It's not you know, it's not like being a part of an organization. We shouldn't be just, you know, high-fiving and, you know.
I got me a jacket, look.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and we just, you know, we having chapters having white parties and golf events and all these things. I mean, it is great. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's a great showcase. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But
we have a purpose. We have
our purpose. And to me, it starts with investing in, you know, in our brothers. You know what I mean? You don't invest enough in your brothers, then you definitely can't invest into the community as much.
Yeah. You know, I remember when I was a little girl, you know, the communities that the Black men would kind of have their time together was your fraternities or your Masons or the Elks Lodge or whatever. And it's very vital because at that particular time, brothers didn't know about mental health services, but you still needed a collective space to decompress and, you know, complain, hey, my wife getting on my nerves today, or, you know, the kids. But, you know, I don't think people really understand the bigger picture and what these spaces and these organizations provide. And it's just so.
Women do such a great job of creating safe spaces for each other. You know what I'm saying? One of the few safe spaces I have is with Kappa. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, I just don't think we really we don't really see it that way. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we just gotta do better in being intentional with providing, you know, not just, you know, hey, I love cigars. We let's have a cigar. You know, we can have a drink. Yeah, let's do that.
But what's the
But
bigger purpose here? What's the bigger
hey,
purpose?
hey, man, we're not talking about how to make more money, how to invest this money. You know what I'm saying? If we're not talking about how to, the next project we're doing, if we're not, if the goals we're setting for ourselves, if we're setting goals that doesn't seem impossible to reach, that means we are absolutely not reaching high enough.
And leave a legacy for the 2090 Kappa generation.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Correct. So what do we have to do to get you to be pole mark for a day so we can have all these initiatives take place?
Man, look.
We have to do a campaign or what?
Nah, it don't work that way. Not in Kappa. Don't work that way in Kappa, man. I think our pole marks, man, are doing such phenomenal work, and they got a lot on their plate that they're, you know what I mean, and I think hopefully somebody see it, and it'll spark nothing else conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's start the conversation of how do we, we are solving some problems, but we're leaving other problems out there. You know what I mean? And all of it's not going to be solved. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, it's impossible to solve all.
But you got to start somewhere. You got to
start somewhere.
And then, the younger brothers coming in and hearing this might be saying, hey, wait a minute, down the line, I want this to be impactful for me still. I want something, this to be lifelong, like you're telling me this is a lifelong commitment. So
it is.
We need to make some adjustments here. So,
Yeah. But we're in good hands, man. We got some phenomenal brothers that's coming up through the ranks, man. We're in great hands. I'm not one of those bros that I'm not one to get off my lawn bros. You know what I'm saying? Hey man, hey, if that's what the young boys want to do, let them do it. You know what I'm saying?
They want to get up here and make TikToks all day.
Hey, because it's a different day.
Yeah.
We gotta teach them the business. You know what I'm saying? Stop being, it's funny. It's so funny to me because, like I said, I've been in the frat 23 years. There's a whole bunch of stuff I'm looking like.
Okay.
Hey. Hey, man, but the ladies like it. So what can I say? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, that's that Kappa, man. The
ladies like it. So, you know what I mean? It's not, but again, I had my time as an undergrad, man. Hey, I had look.
I don't want to hear it. I know you had a good time. I don't want to hear it.
Hey, look, let me tell you something. If time travel is a thing, and I could go back to fall 2000, just before I graduated, you know what I'm saying? And when I was one of the most popular persons on that campus.
The man.
You know what I'm saying? I wasn't the man, but I was one. I was in great campus. I was in great company. It was the time of my life, man. I had the time of my life as an undergraduate. I had a great time anyway, but when I became a Kappa, and we would go all over the state, competing in step shows.
Your stuff didn't stink, did you?
Oh man, look, let me tell you something. And look, I know we've been on the line here, man, for an hour, but I want to tell you a funny story. You know what I'm saying? So it was circa 2000, and we had crossed that spring, and we came back for that fall. Okay. And so I pledged at Theta Phi chapter. That's in Troy, Alabama, right? And so there's a step show that was being put on at Alabama A&M, in Huntsville, Alabama. So that's about a good 3-hour drive there, right? And so at the time, there was this guy that was doing the shows. His name was Showboat Productions, right? And we had this whole act where we came in on Phil Collins. I can feel it in the air tonight. Right, but we did the first part of it where before the beat drop, right? So for like the first minute and a half is all intros, man. Yeah. And we came out there. We had on this like black tuxedo and stuff like that, and we had our cane tucked inside our pants. So we came out there, we were just, just kind of, just walking out on stage. And he ought to go, you know what I'm saying? And so when the beat dropped, then we pulled out our canes and we started bubbling.
Okay.
And you hear about it? And
yeah.
we're tossing the canes. So these stages ain't that well put together. They're not that well put together. And so when you practice stepping on a cane, eventually you'll make a little slant. You'll hit it so many times on the ground to where you make it almost like a point.
Okay.
And so I'm sitting there, you know what I'm saying? And my cane got stuck between the
little crease of the floor.
In between the crease. Cane goes sliding across the stage.
Kappa dropped his cane.
Look, all he was, ooh.
A Kappa dropped his cane.
I grabbed that cane, and then we did the toss number. Cane hit my hand sweating now, I'm nervous.
Kappa, you dropped your cane twice?
2 times in about 15 seconds.
Ooh.
We still came in third place. Because we made up for it, but man, the lights, man, it was, but we redeemed ourselves. We won our homecoming step show at our school that like a month later. But it was, yeah, man.
That was good times. Going to step shows is always good times. Always good times.
Where did you go to undergrad at?
UCLA.
Oh.
Look at ooh.
No, that's Fox chapter. That's we call it Fox chapter. Yeah. Matter of fact, John Singleton is a UCLA new.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
USC, but UCLA, that's me. So when you said predominantly white, it was just a few of us. As a matter of fact, the year I started, there was no queues on campus. So one of my friends, Ethiopian, he actually was the very first one that started the.
So, what year did you come out?
I'm older than you.
Well, I need to know the year.
I started UCLA 1987.
Oh, you're not that much. You're a little seasoned, not that much. I like it.
I'm a lot seasoned. Yeah, but there was on campus, there was only when I started, there was no queues, and being on the West Coast, there was no such thing as Sigma Gamma Rho. I'd never heard of Sigma Gamma Rho until I was grad school. So
that's Sigma Gamma Rho is very big in the Midwest.
Yeah,
very big in the Midwest.
And now, I think I just woke up one day and heard it was Divine Nine. I just like, what happened? Where did I miss? But now there's the iota.
That happened like in 95, 96 when they included iota phi theta, because originally they called themselves the Elite Eight. Okay. Right, because iota is the youngest out of all of us, and it was founded in 1963. So it took them a minute before they were voted in by the panel at the council.
But everybody else is like 100 years old.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a few that still haven't. No, yeah, everybody 100.
Everybody's 100.
Everybody old.
Everybody old.
Yeah. I got a partner of mine, man. He's an iota. I tease us, man. You found him still sitting out the steps, man. What?
And I think that's the beauty of it all, though. Even though you have brothers that are indifferent, we can still, come together and
man. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this random question, because you and I, we could talk for a while here. So. You're going in the fishbowl. Yeah, I got me a random question. Let me see.
Let's go. Shoot.
So you still got some canes on the wall there somewhere along the way in the house? You got a cane?
Man, no. I need to wrap me a new cane. I normally give my canes away when I make a brother, and I normally give it to my check man.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Let me see here what we got. Well, I don't know this. You might have done everything here. What's one item on your bucket list?
Man. I would like to climb Mount Kilimanjaro.
Okay, yeah, there was I saw social media maybe a while ago. It was a group of sisters that just did that collectively together. So
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay, all right. Well, sir, oh, go ahead. I don't know.
Dig one more. Dig in one more random.
Oh, you want one more?
Yeah, one more. Because that was such a short answer. I didn't have anything behind it. One more question.
This one too. How often do you look at your phone every day?
Oh, too often.
Just that new stuff.
Hey, look, man, let me tell you something. I'm waiting for an email back, an interview for a job. I'm not going to say the name of the job, you know, the company, but so I'm in grad school. Thank you. I'm getting an MBA from VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, right?
Okay.
And so one of the things I want to do post-military, I didn't not necessarily want to work for the government anymore, like not for the federal, not on the basis.
A lot of you guys retire and go back into DOD. A lot of you guys.
Right. Yeah, man. And it's, you know, and you know, the Lord is really ordering my steps and making things happen for me. So I just gotta be patient and wait, right? But I interviewed for this job on Friday. This past Friday. I've been checking my phone. Like, yo, is these folks going to, you know, give me my follow-up interview or what? Like, yo, like, hey, I'm ready. Let's.
That's the military thing.
but you know, I never had to interview for a job. Not like that. I've never done a panel interview. I prepped for that interview for a week and a half.
Okay. I don't know. What has it, you know, it's been a while since my father. Did you have to interview in the military? My dad just.
Well, it's an interview, but not.
Yeah. So
it's whether or not the commander wants you or not. I mean, the commander says to go. But I didn't have to meet with 4 random people and get asked 10 questions.
So this is all
and
new.
then get called back for a follow-up interview.
This is all new.
Right. So this is all new to me. You know what I mean? And so it's and so when I'm hoping, so this is what I'm hoping happening. So my current contract, the company that I'm with right now, the contract ends on June 30th. Like, I don't even know after June 30th if I have a job. Like, well, first of all, I don't have a job.
A little stressful. You've had a job your whole life.
You know, right. You see what I'm saying? But, you know, so the way I'm looking at it is, well, there's a reason why. It's because this job is for me. This job I interviewed for.
Okay.
Is I'm gonna get that job.
There you go.
And I'm not gonna have to worry about
there you go.
This job here anymore. You know what I mean?
There you go.
And so that's just the light I'm trying to, you know, trying to shine, and the positivity that I'm trying to, you know, trying to promote. And Ms. Reid, you know, this is the Southern thing. I know you told me I ain't had to call you, but you know, I'm gonna put a handle on it every time if I can. I really, really appreciate you, you know, allowing me to talk about my fraternity, man. I love Kappa Alpha Psi so much. You know what I'm saying? I love being a part of this organization. Awesome. It is the premier organization. You know, there is not another. I'm sure that you can get the same things out of any of these other organizations. I'm sure it is all the same on the surface. But just like I told you, man, the bond, you know, that I share with, well, not a whole bunch of people, but a select few people, you know, my LBs, and here we are 23 years later, we still in touch. We still, you know what I mean? We still talk on a regular enough basis. There's some that we haven't talked to in a while, but then they'll pop up and like nothing happened. You know what I mean? You know, that those are friendships. Life.
You were Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy, life.
Yes, you know what I mean? And the funny thing is like we stuck with each other. It's like, yo, man, I say, hey, man, I'm not your friend, bro. I'm your brother. Yeah, so you
Mhm.
can't say we didn't choose each other. Kappa chose us.
But and those are fundamental lessons learned in the pledging process, because there is struggle,
Yes.
there's fight, but we are a team and we have to get
Yeah.
through this. We have to, it's so I
Yeah.
mean, it's just so impactful for your journey as you pass
Mhm.
through life to have those experiences. So, but
Mhm.
anyways, let me close this up, because we will be here 4 hours later still talking, and
And you got to pare it down. You got to edit this down. How long? How much airtime you got?
Well, it could be as long as forever, but we will have talked as long so those people will call you back and say, hey, you got the job, so come on in on anyways, let me go ahead. Let me go ahead and wrap this up. We're gonna finish this later. So before we go, just let me know your chapter, what y'all have coming up. I saw y'all had a white party.
Yeah, we did. That was just past.
Did I see you in that line entering the building?
No, ma'am. I was working this past Saturday, so I missed it. But just be on the lookout. Our fall is going to be jam packed with different things, specifically our community community engagements. We just gave out about $6,000 worth of scholarships this past spring to several high school students and some college kids that still need it. And, if there's any brothers out there and you're looking for a home chapter, and you don't have one, this is like an altar call.
That's altar call.
Yeah,
I like that.
Hey,
I like that.
Yeah, especially if you're in the greater Richmond area, you don't have a home chapter. Find a chapter to join. But Fort Lee alumni, we are our mantra is keeping it brotherly. You know what I'm saying? Our mantra is branding and bonding. We have a great mix of brothers that is here, both military and civilian.
Okay.
And we are a small chapter in numbers, but we are huge in impact. And and we say all the time, we tell our story, but everything ain't meant for social media either. So, a lot of things we do, especially when we start talking about impacting individual households, someone that's going through a hardship and stuff like that, we're not publicizing that stuff. You know what I'm saying? What I mean?
What's the general rule? You have to be an hour or so within the chapter to be a member? Are there guidelines for that?
No. We have members. We have members of our chapters all the way up in Alexandria, for example. That's 2 hours away. Okay. It's just, it's especially in today's climate with because my first 20 years of the frat, Zoom wasn't a thing. If you wasn't at the meeting,
you was absent.
You just wasn't at the meeting, right? And now with Zoom, it allows us to prioritize our family, but still prioritize Kappa, right? So, I was a primary officer last year. There were times when I was in grad school because my class was on the weekend. I'll step out of class for about 45 minutes and I'll Zoom in into the chapter meeting because,
as long as you
part
got these.
Correct. You know what I'm saying? So now, it is allowed. One of the new boys, he would log in. He was all the way in Kuwait for 90 days. And he'll log in from Kuwait, you know what I mean? Just to be there.
Look at this. Right.
Right.
Okay.
So that's why, that's why I tell brothers, hey, you might not be in the area, but we are committed to keep you fully informed, fully embraced in what's happening locally. And anything that we can do for you, wherever you are, we're all for it. So right. So that's what it's about, man. And I think that I think there's just room to grow,
As you
you
should, I
know.
mean, as everybody should, every organization should, because these young kids are coming in and they have different expectations and they need to carry the fraternity forward.
Mhm.
And how it started and the needs that it needed to fulfill back in 1911,
Mhm.
it might not be so in
It's not saying a lot has changed. And a lot has changed in the last 100 years.
yeah,
You know, we have changed as people, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And what is socially acceptable.
yeah.
And, you know, I think you're going to see a resurgence of Black Greek life. I think Black Greek life is as important as it ever been.
Mhm.
And I think that it is, we are putting more and more people out front, than ever before. I mean, uh, and there's people that you wouldn't even know that's part of these organizations, and it ain't for you to know, and that's the great thing. It ain't for everybody to know
Do the work
that this person,
quietly.
yeah, that this person is part of what we're doing, and sometimes it's better that people don't know. You know what I mean? So, uh, yeah, so. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have, been chosen to be a part of this noble clan.
Many are called, but few are
Few
chosen.
chosen, even few make it through.
That's all for this week's episode of the Male Perspective.
All right, all right.
I'm your host,
Hey.
Lana Reid. We'll talk to everybody. I'll see everybody next time.